Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, World of Blitz, and in today's video, we are taking a look at a Tier 8 premium Japanese tank destroyer, the Type 5 Kari. This is basically a Ferdinand turned into a Japanese premium tank destroyer, but honestly, it looks really solid. I've talked to some testers that have messed around with it. They really like the tank, so I'm quite excited to get my hands on this vehicle when it does get released. As always, you won't find this content on any other Blitz YouTube channel, so make sure to click that subscribe button down below if you'd like to see more reviews like this. I'll have a Lorraine 50-ton video out tomorrow morning, and I'm planning to make more videos on the test tanks coming up this week. So let's get straight into it. As you can see, I have the Type 5 Kari and the Hori Type 1, which is the Tech Tree Japanese tank destroyer in the lineup here, so we can get a good comparison of these vehicle stats. DPM-wise, they're basically the same. As we can see, it's only about a 20 DPM difference, so not much of a change there. Penetration-wise as well, basically no difference on the standard, and also no difference on the premium rounds. So when it comes to the guns, they are almost identical until you reach the damage per shot. The Tech Tree has 400 DPS, where the premium has 440. Personally, I prefer higher damage if you can keep accuracy, which we're going to take a look at in just a moment. But yes, damage per shot is nice. It means that you can outtrade your opponents, especially higher tiered opponents, and I have no problem with that. We can see that the damage per shot goes down by 40 on this gun, though. As we all know, the tier 10 Hori only loses like 15 damage per shot when loading gold, so this tank is actually going to lose a decent chunk of its alpha damage. However, it's only 40 compared to the 60 damage per shot that you're going to be losing with the Tech Tree Hori. The HE damage is also very nice on this tank. It's 570. That's a really beefy chunk of damage, so I like that a lot. Taking a look at this vehicle's caliber, it's an interesting one, a 127 millimeter. I guess it makes sense because 130 millimeters deal 460 damage per shot, so a 127 therefore deals 440. The aiming time on this tank is really nice. It's 1.5 seconds, and its dispersion is 0.317, making this vehicle not only have better aiming time, but better dispersion than the Tech Tree, which has less alpha damage. Yeah, that's a little interesting. We can also see that the vehicle features the exact same gun handling values as the Tech Tree. So far, at least in the gun handling characteristics, which in my opinion are some of the most important for a tank destroyer, Wargaming is definitely making just a much better version of the Tech Tree, which is behind a paywall. So kind of a pay-to-win moment there, but let's make our way down to the mobility and take a look at what's going on there. I should also mention gun depression is in the favor of the Hori. The Type 5 Kari has 6 degrees, which isn't bad to be fair, but it's not going to be as good as the 8 degrees that the Hori has. A lot of people always get bummed out when tank destroyers don't have a lot of gun depression. In my opinion, it's not that big of a deal. You're not supposed to frontline in tank destroyers, so you shouldn't need gun depression to get hull down in front of your opponents. You should be sitting in the back where you don't need gun depression. That's why when a lot of people got bummed out that the Shrek TVP didn't have a lot of gun depression, I was like, but why? It's the same thing as the Scorpion. You're going to be sitting at the back of the map. You're going to be farming people from a distance. If you need that gun depression, you're probably playing the tank wrong. So that's my same example for this tank, is that it's not super heavily armored, which you're going to see when we break into the armor. So you really shouldn't be needing that gun depression for most situations you're driving it in. So let's take a look at mobility. 40 km/h top speed, 15 in reverse. A little bit slower than the Tech Tree, but its power to weight is actually better on hard terrain and very similar on medium terrain. So in reality, it's basically the same mobility. In fact, it even turns a little bit faster. There is one massive advantage the Hori Tech Tree has, though, and this is something that you probably won't hear about a lot, and that is camouflage. Look at the difference in camo values. It is a 13% difference between the Kari and the Hori. That's massive. That is absolutely massive. That means that when you're sitting still, there's actually a decent chance that you could be spotted through a bush with the Kari, but that's never going to happen with the Hori. You can literally be driving in the Hori and have almost the same values as the Kari while sitting still. So that is a massive advantage for the Tech Tree tank, and because of that, I have to say that while there are a lot of advantages with the Kari's gun, that camo value disadvantage is going to be quite big when using the vehicle. You can also see that it has less hit points, 1330 versus 1280, but the view range is in the advantage of the Kari. So to finish off, let's take a look at the armor department. We're going to be comparing the armor from the tech tree to the premium. So let's start off with the Kari. We can see the vehicle is kind of a cool design. It's like the tier 9 Hori, kind of put down at tier 8. So its upper plate is about 220 mils thick. That's not great, especially because we are running enhanced. Using the 6 degrees of gun depression, you can get that to about 260. That's actually pretty solid, especially if you're angling it. Yeah, that's actually a decent upper plate. Even, standard rounds from a tank destroyer aren't going to pen that. The problem is the superstructure. It's just not good. It's only 216 mils, and the gun mantlet itself is only 190. I mean, you do have some troll spots, but I just don't see this tank being much of a struggle to pen for the majority of tier 8. If you're a tier 7, yeah, it's going to be a little tricky, but yeah, I really don't see much of a problem for the average tier 8. The upper plate's definitely going to be troll, but the lower plate is super duper weak, and the superstructure is only 200 mils thick. Side armor wise as well is pretty bad. It's only about 77 and 80 mils. You're not going to be HE'd very easily unless it's a 150, but yeah, it's not good armor on the vehicle. I will admit that right now. Let's take a look at the tech tree Hori. 127 mils on the lower plate. All right, pretty mid. 200 mils on the flat hull, and 210 on the superstructure. If you're using gun depression, that is about 230 mils thick. So the armor is definitely stronger on the tech tree when it comes to the superstructure, but it's weaker on the upper plate. To be fair though, it's a lot easier to hide this part than it is the massive cheeks next to the vehicle. So overall, I would actually say that the tech tree has slightly better armor, but they're quite similar in their overall characteristics. Personally, I love a good tank destroyer. Being able to slap somebody for 440 damage in tier 8 is going to feel really nice, especially when you pair that with the fact the vehicle's got really good dispersion and super solid aiming time. So in the gun handling characteristics, the tank looks really solid, and I like that damage per shot. There's not a lot of vehicles in the game that have 440 alpha. In fact, the only ones that come to my mind right now are vehicles like the Chimera, 50 TP Proto, and most notably, the WZ-111 5A. I actually really like the alpha damage on the 5A currently. It's just really disappointing the vehicle doesn't have a solid accuracy value or really good pen values. In fact, the tier 8 Hori we just took a look at has better pen than the 5A in tier 10 if you're running Cali, so kind of really sad to not lie. But yeah, I think the vehicle is going to be really solid. It's got solid armor, and while its camo values are quite a bit worse in the tech tree, they're still good enough that you should be fine as long as you're in a bush and you're shooting at your opponents from a decent distance. I'm not sure how well the armor is going to hold up. I think if you're up against tier 7s, you'll be able to play quite aggressive, but if you're up against tier 8s or 9s, and it's a lot of tier 9s, you're definitely going to have to play further back. But thankfully, as I said, the gun features really good accuracy. It features good DPM. 2800 DPM is really nice. So you're going to be able to do a good job whether or not you're fighting higher tiered opponents. So I think the tank's going to be strong. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.